In this video, we are going to cover a little bit of the Shapebuilder tool. So the Shapebuilder tool is probably my favorite tool that Illustrator has. It's super handy and it can do all sorts of things. So to start out with, I have some basic shapes created here, and I am just going to show you a little bit about what Shapebuilder can do, and hopefully you kind of take this and run with it. So on the left here, I have some circles created. They are overlapping so that I can show you how exactly the shape builder works. So my circles are created. I'm going to select all of them. That's a key component in using the shape builder tool. You are only able to use it on shapes that are selected. So I selected all those shapes by drawing a marquee around the shapes using my black arrow or my selection tool. Then this is my shape builder tool right here. It looks like two overlapping circles with the cursor. Now I can just draw through all of those overlapping circles and it combines them. So I'll switch back to my arrow and just click off of it so we can see what I did. And now you can see that instead of having individual shapes there, they're all combined into one shape. Let me undo that. Let's step over here to my rectangles. So I could do the same thing here with my rectangles. I'm going to select all of them again by drawing a marquee around the rectangles using my black arrow or my selection tool. I will switch to my shape builder tool and I will click and drag through all of those shapes. And now, again, clicking off, you can see that they're all combined. Cool, right? So that is just the beginning of what the Shape Builder tool does. Not only can we use it to combine shapes, we can use it to subtract shapes as well. So the Pathfinder, if you ever run into the Pathfinder, this works in a lot of the same ways, only a little bit differently. The Shape Builder tool is a little bit more like interactive than the Pathfinder tool, just FYI. Let's go ahead and try something different with the Shape Builder tool. So again, I selected all my shapes using my black arrow and just drew a marquee around them. Now I'm going to press and hold the Alt key, and notice when I do that, my cursor will change. So right now I have a black cursor with that plus sign below it. Now when I press and hold the Alt key, it turns to a minus sign. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to subtract the areas where the shapes overlap. So now I'll click off of it again. And now you can see what I've ended up with here, which is kind of cool, right? So now let's move over to our rectangles again. Let's do the same sort of thing. So select all of them using the black arrow, choose my Shape Builder tool, and then press and hold the Alt key, click, click, click. And now I removed those little areas. Let me step all the way back here. Okay, I want to show you one more thing with these little simple shapes here. Okay, so again, selecting them, choosing the Shape Builder tool. Now I'm going to just click and release. I'm not holding anything down on my keyboard, so click and release right where those shapes overlap again. So right where I just clicked when I was subtracting those parts of the shapes. And now notice that those have changed colors, but they are also their own individual shapes. So I could pull these out, and if I wanted to create a leaf shape, for example, I could do that by making two overlapping circles and then pulling out that leaf shape from the area where the circles overlap. Okay, so I'm going to do the same thing over here again. Select all my shapes, choose the Shape Builder tool, and I'm just going to click on the areas where my rectangles overlap. It's kind of hard to see in the middle here, but these two you can clearly see that this is a different color now. So I could pull those rectangles out for whatever reason. Okay, great, right? I'm just making random abstract shapes pretty much, but I want to show you kind of what one of the things that we can do with this is. So I created this using simple shapes and the Shape Builder tool. I started out with a rectangle. Click and drag out a rectangle. I'm not going to make this one exactly the same as the first one. Rectangle, I pull in the edges, so I'm rounding the corners. Remember we talked about that widget when we talked about just drawing regular rectangles. I need to change this so that it has a stroke and no fill. So I'm going to swap my colors. So I have no fill, but I do have a stroke. I'm going to increase the size of that stroke up to 15 or 16, maybe even more. We'll go 20. Now, right now I have again, I have no fill but a stroke. And in order to do what I need to do with the Shape Builder tool, I need this to be a shape rather than a stroke. And right now it's a stroke around my rounded rectangle. I need it to be a shape. So I'm going to go to Object, Expand, and I want it to expand the fill and stroke and hit OK. And now I can edit this shape as a shape rather than just a stroke. I want to copy that shape. I'm going to press and hold the Alt button on my keyboard, and notice my cursor changes. I'll click and drag over. I want the shapes to overlap a little bit, but still line up on the top and the bottom. So there I have it copied once and I will copy it again, trying to get the spacing about the same. Something like that. It's not perfect, but that will work. Okay, so now I want to use my black arrow, draw a marquee around all of those shapes so that all three of my rounded rectangles are selected. Now I'm going to choose my Shape Builder tool, and now I can click and drag through this part of the shape. I want to leave that part and that part because that is going to be part of the next link. So click and drag through this part, and then these two can combine that way. Now, to really make this stand out, because right now if I click off of it, you can kind of see what's going on, but not really. It doesn't really necessarily look like they're interlocking. In order to make it really look like they are, I'm going to add a stroke on. It doesn't really matter what color, and pull up the weight of the stroke a little bit. Now I can see that they look like they're interlocking, right? All right, so now I have my chain link made. Let's come up here, and we are actually going to make a wrench. So I will start out with a rectangle, and then I will draw a couple of circles on either end. Once I'm happy with the size of the first circle, in order to get both ends of my wrench the same size, I will copy that first circle and move the copy to the other side of the wrench. Now that I have the overall size how I want it, I will select all three individual shapes that make up my wrench shape. Then I will select the Shape Builder tool and combine all three of these shapes into one. Now it looks like a dog bone or a dumbbell or something like that. So what we're going to do is we're going to adjust the shape of the ends so that it looks like a wrench. I will create a polygon with 6 sides by selecting the polygon tool, then clicking once on my artboard and typing in 6 for the number of sides. I will readjust the size and position to how I want it. Then I'll copy that first polygon and move the copy over to the other side of the wrench. I'll select all the parts of the wrench, choose my Shape Builder tool, and press the Alt button on my keyboard while clicking on the areas I want to remove. There we go, it's a wrench. More or less. Not perfect. Let me show you one other quick thing. So by drawing a bunch of circles and paying attention to the way they overlap, I can make interesting shapes. I'm making one circle, then copying that circle by holding the Alt button while dragging that shape over. It's hard to tell what the shapes are going to look like until I select them all. Then in bright green, you can see the outline of each of the shapes. So now I can use my Shape Builder tool to make this into something that doesn't just look like a pile of circles. I'll select all of the circles, then choose my Shape Builder tool. Then I will hold down the Alt button to get rid of some of the excess parts of the circles, because what I'm looking for are the sort of petal or leaf shapes that occur in the areas where the circles were overlapping. Now I want to get rid of the center. Next, I'm going to combine the smaller parts of the petals together by just clicking and dragging to combine. That looks like a stylized flower shape. To make it even more intricate, I can copy what I just made by pressing Ctrl plus C to copy, then Ctrl plus F to paste in front. Then, while my copy is still selected, I will rotate that copy to fill up the gaps in between the petals in the first group. So there you go. You never would have known that this flower shape was created by just using simple circles. And this is why I love the Shape Builder tool.